Faces. Welcome, everybody, to week 3 of our book club. And so last week we talked about your why and discovering the purpose as to what it is that drives you in your business, life, whatever. And so Jenny's just going to kind of recap a little bit of that with us before we get started on chapter 3.
So some of the things that were that this woman, this Rami, is it Rami or Romy? I don't guess it matters. She's not here. Um, but she thinks that is important for us to look at is what is your why? Why is your why important to you? Which I think is a very interesting question because we can spit out a bunch of whys, but if you don't know why they're your why, um, it still gets muddled. It still gets lost. And then the other things were like if you don't work to achieve your why, what kind of consequences is that going to cost in your life? And 5 years down the road, if you don't do anything towards accomplishing your why, where are you going to be? Which will generally be either in the same place or in a worse position than you are now. So those were things we were going to write down and then read every day for 3 weeks so that you can get them in your head, so that you can get your why, you can get the purpose for your why, and then you can get the consequences and rewards in your head for what's going on. So if you don't have the book or if you didn't get that done, there's no time like the present to start that kind of thing, and get yourself a new notebook or something that you can find. That's the one thing that I do find that I do sometimes is I will just grab a notebook and I'll write even notes from like a training or something in it, and then I can't find it again because it's buried in a whole bunch of other stuff and by the time I find it again, I'm quit looking. So yeah, find something that you're going to be able to do. It'd be great if you could get it on a piece of paper and put it somewhere where you would see it all the time. So but that was initially what the action plan was for chapter 2.
And I think I think one of the most important steps is to revisit it because a lot of times we make our pillowcases, we do all the things that we're supposed to do, the exercises that help us discover these things, and then we never go back and look at them, right? And a year later, we're like, oh, huh, look at that. Like I didn't do any of that, or I did all of it. Sometimes that does happen, but I think that's one of the most important parts is going back on a regular basis and revisiting that. And I think also for all of us that have each year, we kind of go through the why, purpose, whatever it is, the reason why you're here in the business, the things that make you work when you don't want to work, right? Make you move and take action when you don't want to. I think what I loved about like the way she kind of talked about it was to fast forward, and because a lot of times we're like, fast forward 5 years, where are you, and you're like dreaming really big and all this, but to fast forward 5 years and it's what if you don't do these things. Some people in some trainings I've listened to, they refer to that as the carrot and the stick, right? Technique to figure out, so you dangle the carrot, that's where you want to go, where you want to be, and the stick is what happens when you don't do those things. Like what happens if you don't take these steps forward? What happens if you don't have continue to progress in the business and make more money for your family? What happens in those situations? And so to me it's very powerful because I can dream and I can think the dream's really big and really great, and that's wonderful, and some days that's enough to take me, but some days it's the stick part of it that really motivates me because it's like, you know what, I don't feel like doing this, but I also don't want to lose everything I've had just like I did before, and so that's something that kind of like forces me on those days when I just don't feel like it to continue to put one foot in front of the other. So those are just kind of my thoughts on it. Anybody else want to share anything? Maybe you did the exercise or part of it or something that you were thinking about towards it.
I actually did do it, and I'm not good at this stuff at all. And I didn't start till
well, now 21st. You can't say that, Melissa. You are good at this stuff.
That's one of the things I'm working on this year, and I put it in this little notebook because it's little, I can't miss it. And I actually have been, since I did it on the 21st, have been reading it daily and it's pretty cool because it's got this little marker so I can turn right to it. But when I was doing it, I'm like, these questions are the same. Why am I answering the same question over and over? And then I'm like, I started finding my answer was different though. I mean, I found, I guess, different nuances to how I was answering. So it actually has been pretty interesting for me. So I'm actually sort of glad I did it.
Good.
As-
I love that.
As
Now
far
we'll
as
see
not
if
being
it
good
does-
at it, you seem to be in the top 1% of.
You are. You are in the top 1%. You're 1%er. Run this call.
My husband will be so happy to hear that.
At this point, your grade point average is a 4.98.
My mom's an English teacher, so she'll definitely be happy to hear that.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing, Melissa.
Well,
I'm sorry. Go
no.
ahead.
I was just, I totally missed last week. There's just been a lot going on in my house, but I listened to the recording and I had really high hopes of doing the homework and it just didn't happen. But during listening to that recording, I was like, oh my gosh, that's why I've been so inconsistent. I don't have a why. I've never had a why. So,
I love that.
I have a hard time deciding what my why is because on the one hand, they say that it shouldn't be monetary and it should be personal and, you know, all of those things. But I have a number of different things and reasons why I'm in this business. So I'm having a hard time pinning something down. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yes.
What do I do?
Well, so they, the infamous they that say that you can't be monetary and things like that, I completely disagree with that. I completely disagree with that because when that they told me that before, and so whenever I would try to like say whatever my and they for me actually had a name, it was my upline, right? So anytime she would ask me about like what's my why, what do I really want out of this business in my life and all of this, and I would tell her I wanted to pay my bills. She's like, no, I mean beyond that, beyond paying your bills, and I could not see past that crisis in my life. I couldn't see past that. And so I would make something up just to appease her. And I'd say, oh, I want a house on a lake. And yeah, I do want a house on a lake, but that is far off in the future. I got to save the house I'm in, you know? And so it was just like, but I just would say it just to, oh, that's great. That's exactly what you're shooting for. And it's like, but that's not my why. That's what you're wanting my why to be. So when I came to Tupperware and I was sitting there with Pam, I was like, I said, listen, she goes, well, what is it that you want? What do you really want? Like, what's your why? And I was like, well, I'll tell you what my why is, but you're not going to like it. And you're going to tell me I need something else. And and she goes, well, why would I, what, of course it's your why. Like, how can I not like it? Like it's nothing to do with me. And so when I told her, I said, I need to pay my bills. I want to be able to pay my bills and still have money for food or anything else that comes up. And I can't do that right now. And she's like, why wouldn't you think that's a good why? She's like, that's a great why. That is something that you are determined to do, that you need desperately for your family. She's like, that's a perfect why. And I was like, and I told her that nobody had ever accepted that why from me before. And she's just like, no, if that's where you're at, that's your why. That's what you need to be going for. So I think, Julie, you just need to figure out, don't worry about what anyone says should or should not be your why. What is the thing that is most urgent for you? You know, and narrow that down, and then maybe make the most urgent thing that's your first and foremost, your first goal in your why journey, and then the next layer, and then the next layer, and then the next layer. But there's no wrong answer. It's your why. Nobody can tell you it's good or bad or wrong or right, you know?
Okay. That sounds
Does that
good.
help?
Absolutely. Thanks.
Okay, good.
I appreciate
Sometimes
that.
we get it in our head that it has to be some monumental life-changing, earth-shattering thing. And sometimes it's just not, or it's not yet. Because like Ellen said, you have to get past, I want to be able to feed my kids next week.
Right.
It'd be great if I could save the world, but first, I and I was talking to somebody on my team the other day, and I said, what is the one thing you would like to do in the next couple months with this business? And she goes, I want to buy my daughter new tires for her car. And I said, oh, and I didn't know how old her daughter was. She goes, no, she's 36, but she has 2 kids and she's raising them alone. And she's driving on tires that nobody should go out of the driveway in. And I don't have enough money to help her. I want to be able to help my grown children. And I'm like, I get it. I totally get that. And, and just for somebody else's, well, what's your why? I want to buy tires for somebody else's car. And they're going to be like, what? No, dig deeper. What's your why? No, that's my daughter. Those are my grandkids. That is a pretty deep why, to be very honest with you. Just doesn't sound like it. So yeah, I think sometimes we try and make it, or people try and make you make it a house on a lake, when what it really is I just want everybody in my family to be comfortable and happy for a while. So
and I think the more that you're in the business, the longer you're in the business, because we talked about that last week. When we used to get together at the studio, somebody would come to the studio and they'd talk about their why. And it's like providing shoes for all the kids in Africa. And, you're like, okay, I want to buy groceries next week. But, and that's where I sometimes still am, because I don't feel like my why right now. It's changed many, many, many times in 6 years, but it's still not what they want to put me for Jubilee for. It's not going to make people cry. It's not going to, it's my why. And sometimes I feel like it needs to be more earth shattering, but then you come to realize that it's not. It's different for everybody, but it will change. And for the longest time I didn't have one either, Diane. So I just kind of made something up. When Pam asked me what my why was, I was like,
yeah, but you better have an answer. So
yeah, you got to have an answer when she asks you. So money for college.
Dude, I'd leave the room. Like, they'd be like, we're going to do pillowcases. Or I have to use the bathroom.
Yeah. So you know what? Not fake it till you make it, but go with what your why is. If your why is, I want to have an extra $300 to buy candy, then that's your why. I don't know. That's the first thing that popped into my head.
Well, I mean, I did just spend $3,000 on a furnace,
Oh, there you go.
I saw that journey.
And I think it's kind of tied to the whole, every time there's a major crisis, I go further into debt.
Yeah.
So just to be able to not go into debt when I have something that big. So
you want a cushion. What do they call that? A rainy fund that you want to, whatever, rainy day.
Emergency fund.
Emergency fund. There you go. But that's not unlike, that's the other thing. That's not unlike most Americans. They say most Americans only have in savings like one paycheck. One paycheck away from not having anything. So as Americans, it's drilled into people's heads. Well, we're just going to live paycheck to paycheck. And when those things happen, you're like, oh no, so that's a great why,
Don't you think your why is always there? Because we wouldn't be doing it if there wasn't some reason we were doing it. It's just sort of pulling it out and finding out what it is for you. Don't you think?
Yes, absolutely, Melissa. I agree with that. It's there, but it's important because, how many times are we not mindful of the things that drive us anyways? We know we do things and we take care of things, but we don't realize, why behind why we're doing it. Because once we figure that out, that's what pulls us forward when we don't want to go forward, when something scares us. Maybe, Pam's like, you need to recruit more. You need to double your recruiting. You're like, I'm not super comfortable with recruiting anyways, and so you're just like, and now the thought that I have to be doubly uncomfortable as I'm trying to reach more people, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be in that uncomfortable place. And then you remember, okay, but I want to be able to get tires for my adult child who's struggling as a single mom. Like that's something that, compels you. You're like, okay, well, I'm going to ask one more person, even though it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel good to me, and it just kind of helps you through that. Yeah, Melissa, you're exactly right. We do have them in us. We just have to figure out what those pain points are, right?
Well, I think
Lydia,
a lot
did
of
you have
it's what-
something you wanted to say?
Me?
Lydia. I thought Lydia
Lydia,
was
no.
trying to say something.
No, I was nodding my head in agreement because yes, yeah,
Yeah,
Okay.
she's afraid to talk because of the dub sound thing.
I
Yeah,
know.
which head
I'm
was
afraid
moving?
Lori's going to grab me again.
But I think a lot of it, I think, is like what Lori was saying, that sometimes when we think about our own why, it doesn't sound important enough to be a why. It's not something you want to put out there because you think people are going to go, really? That's all you got?
I know. Yeah.
Well, especially when you hear some people's whys are so powerful. Like they have, this organization that they're trying to raise money for because it affected their family in an intimate way and all this wonderful stuff. And that is wonderful. I'm not there yet. I have to take care of home base before I can take care of other people and do those wonderful things. That's where I want to go. But right now, my family needs security and we need like a cushion so that in the emergencies, it doesn't turn into a crisis because we don't have the money for it, and so, but they say take care of yourself, right? And then you're able to give beyond your wildest dreams, right? If you're playing your cards right and you're smart with it. And so that's right now, I'm not there yet. I see that's where I want to go, but that's not my why right now. It's too big. I posted on Facebook today because Ella shared this with me actually, and it showed two pictures of a ladder, right? And one of them, the rungs were really far away from each other. And the other one, the rungs were really close. And it said the importance of the steps, of having all the steps, right? And the person's at the bottom of the ladder and they can't even reach the first rung. Sometimes I think people with their whys that sometimes they have them too big and they can't reach that bottom rung. And you do need to get those tiny little steps in there. And right now I'm still on the little steps. I'm not to the top, Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I
Yes.
think it's another area where you can say comparison is the thief of joy.
Yes.
Because you look at somebody else's why, like a lot of people's whys are, I want to help my kids get through college. Okay, for me, that's a no start. That's not a starter because my kids are all grown and out of the house. Okay? Or I want to take the financial pressure off my husband. Again, has nothing to do with me. And I'm like, so it's not that. So I want to do stuff for myself, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, that's pretty shallow and selfish and not something I want to throw out there to the world. What's your why? I want to do this for me.
I want to go to New York City and ride a balloon.
I want to go to New York City and ride a balloon at Christmas. And
Gosh, that's an awful why. Who wants that?
And you know what happened with that? Why? They shut the freaking country down. So
just as
So there's the bottom line.
so yeah, there's that. So now I'm watching balloon rides on TV. What?
And Lydia did post this Get in Action, right? Where did you post that, Lydia? On Champion, right?
Yeah, the book club.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for those who don't have the book, you can see it, but this is where I struggle because I have this great journal, and I will be completely honest that I have this journal. It's Start Today, so it's Rachel Hollis, and I got this journal, and it's awesome. And I have this note that says Start Today Journal, and she asks questions like this, which it totally throws me off. She's like, okay, get specific. They want you to get specific because what Ellen said, you can say, oh, I want to provide water to all the people in Africa. Okay, that's your big, gigantic thing. But what are you going to do to get there? You have to get specific. And that's what throws me off, the 5 years or the 10 years. And I bought that journal last January. and I wrote in it. I know. Go ahead, Jenny. Spit that all over. I wrote it 3 times because I looked. So, now it's a 2021 Start Journal because it was something that I wanted to do, but I was like overwhelmed. Like, I can't, 5 years, my daughter has 5 years before she goes to college. I want to pay for college. That's a why. But I have many, many whys before the college. I've got many other selfish, shallow things to accomplish before that, so that's where I struggle personally. Honestly, I do. But I'm going to use this page and you guys can check in with me next Monday. I'm going to pull out my journal and start writing in it. But that's a huge mental block for me. Like, I have team goals, I have work goals, I know where I'm going, but ask me down the road and I'm like, not, I kind of get sidetracked. I just can't do that for some reason.
Not alone there, Lori, because I've always been, you in the career type world, or whatever we want to call that other world of opportunity, they say, well, where do you want to be in 5 years? Where do you want to be in 10 years? It's like, I want to be alive, and it's very hard to think about where you want to be in 5 years because you don't know what's going to happen between now and then. And so many things can happen between now and then. You can have your dream, but that, with the way the world is today, you just don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So I definitely agree with you there.
Yeah. And when you hear people with these big, amazing whys in that, I think we all have to remember that's not their first why.
Mm.
They've grown to that, but nobody, when they're talking about this huge why and that, nobody talks about where they started. They may have started with putting food on the table or whatever and evolved and, come all that way over the years, and they've ended up now this is their big why, and it's amazing. But for some of us, I know I'm the same way as the rest of you. It's like I have a hard time with my why. I really do, and it changes all the time. But no, I haven't done this exercise, and I know I need to.
So before we start reading, I
Truly.
talked to my uncle
But
over the
it's-
weekend, and he's 96. And he had gone to get his driver's license. He wanted to get a state ID. And they passed him for another driver's license. And he wouldn't take it. And he said to the guy,
Oh,
he
my
said, "Do you
word.
not have family on the road?" And the guy goes, "Well, yes, I do. I have family." He goes, "And you'd put me out there with them?" He goes, "All I want is a state ID." But he was asking me about how things were going and stuff like that. And he's 96. And I said, "So what are you guys up to?" And he said, and my aunt's 94. He said, "Well, right now we're checking out things for an Alaskan cruise. We've never been on an Alaskan cruise." And I said, "Oh." And he goes, "And if you say that I don't have 4 years left to take an Alaskan cruise, I'm hanging up on you now." He goes, "Because as long as I have something to live for, I have something to live for." He goes, "So if I want to plan an Alaskan cruise for my 100th birthday, that's what I'm going to do." And he goes, "And I suggest you start saving your money because we might need somebody to help us get up the deck."
Oh my God. Yeah, he's your family. He's your,
Yeah.
sounds totally like something you would say.
It's my dad's brother.
That's awesome, though. That is awesome.
And they're but well, when you talk to, they gave up their car, which was very sad for them because they would tell me even as long ago as just last year that they used it to take the older people at the church to get their medicine and stuff. And I was like, "Do you guys go to church with a bunch of people that are 110? What is happening?" And he has always said, "Old's in your head."
Mhm.
And he goes, he goes, "We have 75-year-old people that think they can't get out of bed." He goes, "Your Aunt Allison and I," he goes, we're going to be moving till we're done." And I'm like, "Okay,
Okay.
do it."
Yeah.
I like it. I like it.
Mhm.
All right. Well, what a great discussion. I'm so glad that we kind of recapped and talked about that a bit. So, Jenny, would you like to start reading for chapter 3 for us?
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, make a list. Your list is your life. Make it a long one. All right. You've established or reestablished the foundation of your business, your why, and you've set some short term goals. Now it's time to focus on the lifeline of your business, your list. Your list truly is your life in this business, so make sure it's a long one. It's a living, breathing thing that you should be consulting, updating, and tweaking daily. The sooner you get in the habit of thinking of your list in this way, the sooner it will become a valuable asset to your business. Another way to think of it is like a bank account. As you make withdrawals, take people off your list, you've got to make deposits, always adding new people. So we're going to talk about how to make deposits to your list every day. I'll show you how to work with your list over time to keep it organized so you can focus more efficiently on income producing activity, IPA, and growing your business faster. Do what I'm about to teach you, and your list will never get anemic. Create your master list. The best thing you can do for yourself and your future business partners is to keep a very thorough master list. This list includes every human you know, whether it's a close relationship or acquaintance. The key is not to prejudge who goes on this list. We have no idea who'll be interested in what we have to offer. Many make the mistake of segmenting their list by prejudging what their network will be interested in. Putting people into predetermined categories of product user and team member is a fruitless exercise. First, there's no way for us to predict who'll be interested in what part of our business. The majority of our monthly income comes from the teams of 3 people I never thought would be interested in starting their own turnkey enterprise. Heck, I've had countless people tell me they never would have guessed I'd ever be interested in something like this. Second, categorizing people will consciously or unconsciously cause you to tailor your conversation, and you'll unknowingly choose how that person will be involved. As I'll teach you, you'll be much more effective if you lead with the business and default to the products. I coach our new business partners on their very first day in business to take a pad and paper and write down everyone you know with skin. Since our business is skincare, it always makes them chuckle. Then I have them put stars by their top 30 dream teamers. These are the people they would love to work with for whatever reason. Maybe they have a track record of proven success. Maybe they have magnetic personalities. Maybe they are influencers in their networks. Maybe they just get shiz done. Or maybe they're just so damn much fun you think it'd be an absolute blast to work with them. Now keep in mind, you have no earthly idea if they'd actually want to do this, but that's not the point. You're identifying them as part of your dream team, just like in a fantasy football league, because now you're the CEO and you can choose to hire whomever you want. Whether they accept is up to them. I also asked them to identify who on their list would be part of a dirt list. Simply put, these are people who love and support you so much that if you were selling dirt, they would want to support you. I didn't coin this term, by the way. I heard it at a training and thought it was so adorable and brilliant that I adopted it. This list will likely include your mom, dad, grandparents, sister, and your BFF. I've seen how helpful making a dirt list calls with your upline team members can be when you're brand new. These calls are a great way to start learning from your business partner right away, quickly putting the whole earn as you learn method to use. It also gets your first calls under your belt and shows you that it's really fun and won't kill you. I've seen it help newbies add their first few customers, business partners, and referrals right out of the gate. It's okay that you don't know much yet. Your business partner does most of the talking. For details on how to actually execute these suckers, hold tight. We'll cover that in chapter 10. 3-way, anyone? But I can't come up with more than 25 people, or more than 40, or 55, or 100. We've all heard some shockingly low number for humans who have been on the planet for 20 or more years. I'm calling BS on this one. It's actually been proven to be total BS. A New York Times article reported that the average American knows about 600 people, according to researchers at Columbia University. Tai Xing and colleagues posed a series of questions to a representative sample of 1,500 Americans. How many people do you know named Kevin? How many people named Karen? How many named Sean or Sean, Brenda, Keith, or Rachel? After adjusting for various factors, including that names are not evenly represented across different ages in the population, they determined that participants knew an average of 8.4 people with those names. Social Security records suggest that 1.4% of the population has one of these names, and 8.4 divided by 1.4 is 600 people. The average person knows how many people. Even if you're skeptical of this number or don't even understand the math, let's look at social network research from decades earlier. The same article reported that Russell Bernard and Peter Kilworth estimated that the average American knows 290 people. This lower number could be because the names they used were common ones like Michael and Robert, and research shows that people with common names are harder to recall than those with slightly more exotic ones like Sean and Rachel. But it could also be because the recent rise of social media has not only increased people's networks, but also kept people from our past more in our lives and more likely for us to recall. Keep in mind, there's no indication that the research volunteers were people whose professions required them to cultivate their networks, meaning the number will be much lower than people like us, whose gig is about being active, social human, and making new friends all the time. If that's never been you, it will be you. You can do this. Not satisfied with the numbers provided by the people who've made a career of researching social networks? Let's look at weddings then. The Knot.com 2013 Real Wedding Study reports that the average wedding has 138 guests. Also, according to these wedding gurus, 10 to 20% of those invited won't attend. So the average invite list is 151.8 to 165.6. Since we can't have a fraction of a person, although I have met people who have a fraction of a personality and thus would not be a good choice for this business, let's agree that the average number of people one feels close enough to in order to snag an invite to one of the most important events of his or her life is 152 to 165. So please don't tell me you don't know at least 200 humans on the planet, and that's just for starters. Here's the great news. No matter how many or few people on your initial master list, you'll continually be adding to that list. You'll likely think of new people every day, and at least once a month, you should sit down and methodically add people to your list. A great way to do that is to jog your memory by looking at the following categories you may know on the next page. Try coming up with 4 new names in each category during your monthly session. Do that, and you'll have more than 100 new people to reach out to. When you think you've exhausted these categories, try what researchers have done. Go through names starting with A through Z and write down those who come to mind. If after all these exercises, you or your newbies still can't think of more than 30 or so humans you know on the planet, you probably don't like people enough for this profession. So stick with being a happy product user and hand over that list of people you do know to the person who brought you into the business. All right, so get in action. Do you want to read the list, Ellen, or do you just want people to look at it? Okay. There's a list there. Get the book, Jeff. Create your chicken list. If you don't reach out to your chicken list, the people you're afraid to talk to will end up on someone else's team, as someone else's customer, or someone else's connector to a runner. Given the growth rate of some companies and our profession as a whole, this isn't conjecture, it's fact. So get over your damn self, quit making up stories in your head about what the chicken list people will say, think, or do, and just take action. Let's be honest. If the people on your chicken list are such studs that they intimidate the hell out of you or cause you to make up apocalyptic stories in your head, aren't they precisely the people you want on your team, or at least as evangelists for your product or connecting you to their networks? I implore you to reach out right away to every single person who makes your belly do flip-flops or makes you want to hurl when you think about approaching them. After all, the very reason they're on your chicken list is probably why you'd want them on your team. I promise that you won't die. Just do it. There was one person who was on my chicken list when I started. She was the last boss I ever had, and let's say my departure wasn't all sunshine and roses. Even though we parted on not so great terms, there was no denying this woman had serious smarts, business chops, and people skills, and she should have been one of the first people I called. Yet while I wasn't worried what others thought of what I was doing, I was really nervous to tell her. Honestly, I can't quite remember why. I think it had something to do with how on the outside it seemed like she was so in love with her marketing career and owning an agency, and maybe I feared that she would think I gave up or was crazy to want to get out of PR or some other story I was making up in my head. In reality, I had no idea what she would think. None of us know what anyone is thinking, so all the time and energy you spend speculating is a waste. One day, about 3 months after I launched my business, she called to see if I'd be willing to do some media relations contract work for a client of hers. I'm so sorry I can't help you, but I'm shutting down my PR career. I found something far too fun and far too lucrative, flew out of my mouth. But thanks so much for asking. Why don't I send you the contact info for someone I think would be perfect? Sound good? Sure, that would be great, she stammered, and as we said our goodbyes. Less than an hour later, she emailed to ask me if I'd meet her for coffee that afternoon. She had poked around on Facebook and saw what I was up to and wanted to talk about it. At our meeting, she told me all the reasons she should be a part of this. My chicken lister was recruiting herself. After our coffee talk, she enrolled. It was 10 days before our company's first national convention, and she went with me. Her name is Bridget Kavanaugh, and she has become one of our team's and entire company's MVPs. She's a 7-figure earner and is one of my most trusted and effective power partners. This business also healed a frayed friendship, exponentially growing our mutual respect and developing a deep love for each other and our families. I shudder to think of what would have happened if she hadn't needed some PR help, because I had no plans to call her anytime soon, and one of my other teammates in our town could have easily reached out to her. Don't be chicken shit. It could cost you millions and keep you from living the life you really want. Writing your list on a pad of paper is a great way for a newbie to start. It's easy and duplicable. I hate that word, but it's not an efficient enough system for the long haul. Once my new business partner gets through her first dozen conversations, I encourage her to come up with a better list management system. Since you'll want to take notes on when you've talked to them, what they said, next steps, and any other important notes to use in follow up, there has to be room for that info and the ability to edit. Some business builders love note cards filed in boxes that are separated by dividers with dates as to when to next follow up. Others swear by a notebook with notes after every name or a note on their phone, although it scares me to death how easily that could be lost. Very popular on our team are Excel spreadsheets. These are new apps being developed for list management. As for me, I've worked with a Word doc with an embedded table for years because honestly, I'm faster with Word than Excel. Either one allows for easy find functions that allow you to search for the flight attendant on your list when there's another success story just released in your company blog about a flight attendant who retired because she surpassed her day job earnings. No matter what you end up using, understand that you may have lists that you create all over the place. We can't always dictate when our memory will be jogged, after all. Just promise yourself that you'll take all those names scribbled on the backs of envelopes or in random notebooks or in notes on your phone and transfer them to a master list. You'll be so grateful for this simple practice and discipline. The key to adding to your list all the time is to get out of your house and make new friends every day. Go where the people are. Instead of driving through the outside bank window or the Starbucks drive-through, go inside and stand in line where you'll meet other humans. If you work from home, take turns working at different cafes and chit-chat with people next to you. Get involved in hobbies that involve people. Accept invitations. When you're on an airplane, never fall asleep or put earbuds in until you've had thorough conversations with all the people around you. Keep falling in love with people, connecting with them, learning about them, and discovering whether you have something of value for them. I get how hard this can be. It's still hard for me sometimes. I'm what's considered an introverted extrovert or an extroverted introvert. I can never remember which. But what it means is that while I love people and get energy from being with them, after a while, I just need to be alone, blissfully alone. Yet what I've learned is that as long as I take little snippets of quiet time alone for myself to recharge, even as little as 15 minutes of meditation or reading, it makes it easier to do the level of socializing required to flourish in our people-centric, eccentric business. I accept every invitation I get for social outing unless I have a really good excuse, like the kids are sick or I've gotten an even better invite. Even this morning, I wrestled with an invitation for a mom's day out at a glass blowing shop. I'll be coming off a week of house guests, followed by a week of ski travel with John and the kids, bumping up against month end for our business and trying to get this book done. So my knee-jerk emotional reaction was, oh, good God, no way am I going to do one more thing. But then my seasoned business builder brain kicked in, looked at all the other people invited. That's a lot of fresh meat, I told myself, and clicked yes to RSVP. I get it. You're tired. It's snowing. You've been talking to people all week. Your kids have sucked out every remaining bit of energy you have. Your couch and your favorite movie are calling you, but remember how badly you want this and get your ass out there. On the days of getting your ass out there when you're looking like a mess, they're over because we take our business with us wherever we go. We need to be ready to make new friends. You've got to be presentable all the time. Don't get me wrong. I'm not suggesting you need to be perfectly coiffed and dressed to the nines every time you go out the door. You simply want to feel confident and make the person you encounter think you have your act somewhat together. Simply put, if you look like hell, no one's going to want to use what you have to offer or build a business so they can have your life. So once you're out there, what do you do with all the people you meet? Start friendly conversations and see if the person responds in kind. If they don't, then we know they wouldn't be any good at what we do. But if they smile and engage in conversation, they're a personable human, and you should ask them some questions to learn a bit about them. Your intention shouldn't be to vomit all over them about your business. This is not an instant gratification process. Instead, find a reason to exchange contact info so you can follow up with them another time. I call this getting digits. I always love to ask someone if they're local. If they're not, they usually tell where they're originally hail from. That leaves a great opportunity to mention, hey, my business is expanding to wherever they're from. I'd love to pick your brain sometime about who you know there that might be a great fit for what I do. Let's exchange contact info. Then you go home, add that person as a Facebook friend, and put in your calendar reminder to call them in the next day or so. I also meet a lot of new people by offering to be a resource for them. If a conversation leads to someone who's looking for a babysitter or a dog groomer, I offer to send them some recommendations. I genuinely enjoy being a resource for people, and this also allows me to get their contact info and keep in contact with them. Again, this isn't instant gratification. It's about building a relationship. I'll help them, and then I can ask to pick their brain about their network to see if someone might be a fit for my business. When you're out and about, you're bound to run into people you know. Have a lovely conversation, and then throw in, I was actually going to reach out to you. I've started a new business, and I'd love to pick your brain. Can I give you a call tomorrow morning? Which time works better for you, 9 or 10:30? Another key skill in keeping your ears open is keeping your ears open. Now that you're building a business with products or services and a business model that can help people, listen for opportunities to offer up solutions to someone's problem. If you're chatting with a parent at the side of the soccer field and she admits missing the last 3 games because of work, you should respond, maybe you should take a look at what I do. You might be able to build a side business that can set you free from your rigid work schedule. I don't know if you'll be interested, but it's probably worth a look. Let's exchange contact info and I'll give you a call tomorrow night. What time will you be free after the kids go to bed? If you meet someone at the pool on vacation and they complain this is the first trip they've taken in years because of too little time and money, you respond, maybe you should take a look at what I do. You can build a side biz that could fill vacation funds and then one day give you more time freedom. I don't know if it'll be a good fit, but it's worth a look. Let's exchange contact info and follow up when we get back to our real lives. The same concept applies for problems you may hear that your products can solve. Try listening more and you'll be amazed at how many opportunities there are to share. I love watching the top recruiters on our team and how they take their business with them wherever they go. They view the entire world as full of possibilities. It's not that they walk around vomiting all over people about our business and products, but they're so genuinely friendly and make new friends wherever they go. Like one of our biggest business builders, Kim Kraus. Kim makes friends wherever she goes. She loves talking to people and starts conversations with no agenda other than to connect with other humans. If she gets a tepid response, she doesn't take it personally and doesn't let her deter her from being authentically friendly self. Kim has met future business partners and customers on airplanes, at resorts on vacation, running errands, at her kids' activities, and at restaurants. All these conversations have expanded her network and contributed to her 7-figure income. The world is full of people you know and can meet, so you never have to run out of people to talk to. Keep reading so I can teach you how to use this list, because the longest list in the world isn't going to do you any good if you don't reach out to the people on it.
So I love this chapter and I've done many trainings on this chapter. I like her word choices and just like the casualness of it. Yes, there are some things that we need to change for like some of this stuff is done via messaging these days and things like that, since we're not really out and about quite as much as we used to be. And sometimes approaching people right now is not, it's not as comfortable as it always has been, if it has been comfortable for you. But I still think a lot of this applies in being able to message people and talk to people and start the conversation. And I love her approach as far as like, trying to be a resource for people instead of just like leading with the business foot forward. Just try to be a resource for people, try to help people, asking for resources from people, you know, as ways of, you know, just starting the conversation. What does anybody else think?
So one of the ways that you can meet new people right now without going all the places that a lot of us aren't going, there are a gazillion groups on Facebook and just as many on, there's even different apps to join groups and different places to go. If you join the group, and again, it's like the not instant gratification, that's so true. You can't join a group and go, hey, I sell Tupperware, you know, but you can join a group. I'm in a young moms group, okay? Got nothing to do with me at all. However, I introduced myself as I'm not really a young mother, but I'm a mother who had a lot of young kids. And I'm interested in how you guys are raising your kids now, because it seems so different than how I raised mine. But there's always a chance I might have some tried and true remedies for some of the problems you're having. And I didn't put this, but that honestly don't consist of, now we need to talk or you're going to have to sit in timeout. So, but so I'm in that group, and I have made a few friends in the group. And now and the one of them just said the other day, she goes, I don't want to go back to work. She said, they're talking about us going back to work and it's not until July, but the longer I'm home, the less I want to go back. So now I can talk to her about this without, and and I don't know her. Her name's Shelly. That's what I got right now. So, but but actually the groups are easier to join than talking to people face to face if you're not that kind of person, because you can get in there, and if you don't ever want to say anything, you don't have to, but it's just a way to get in. I don't know. I've joined a few of them to see how it's working, and a couple of them I left almost as soon as I got in because the name was deceiving. But it was like, no, not me. But so yeah.
Good
I'm part
idea.
of Cleveland singles group. Never met any of them. Never been to any of their stuff. But they send me invitations to stuff all the time. But they're doing things like going bowling and going to the casino. And no, yeah, I know. I don't get it. But I do talk to one lady that's in there that keeps wanting to know why I won't come to anything. So yeah.
Good idea. Not the singles group, but good idea for joining other groups that way.
Hey. Again, the
Not
kids
for me.
and the husband thing have nothing to do with my wife. So.
Yeah. Singles group, not for me, but for you, that's fine.
Yeah, you're right though. Those groups on Facebook, when you can find something, sometimes you join those groups looking for information, right? And then sometimes, or education, and then sometimes, you join the group so that you can be that source for people. I mean, think about it that way. A direct selling group or something like that, you can be a source and be somebody who's always willing to offer ideas and offer up, tips and things like that. And then when somebody is shopping for a company, they might remember that, and so there's lots of different angles to use those groups for. That's a really good point, Jenny.
It is important to remember that all of those people are just as expert in their opinions as you are. So don't take, I try not to take anything they say as gospel, because, if they truly were the number one lawyer in the country, they would not be in that group. Just saying.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Quite possibly.
Good, bad place to get your legal advice or your medical advice, honestly.
Oh my gosh, I'm in a group, and I swear I can't tell you how many times an admin comes on is like, we are not allowed to offer medical advice within this group. You need to it's like, oh my gosh, people, stop self-diagnosing, go to a doctor.
I was in one the other day and somebody was giving all this tax information and somebody else was like, do you do this for a living? Oh, well, no, I use TurboTax. Awesome.
Whoa.
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Well, I love it. And one of the things that that I've always had, so I always referred to your list as a living, breathing list, because you're always marking people off and you're always adding people to it. And I carried, when I had a diaper bag, I had my list in my diaper bag. If I left the house, it was in that bag. I always had the bag with me when I left the house, so that if I had a moment, I could just, make a couple quick phone calls and things like that. And so now it doesn't even have to be like that. You can have the list right in your phone, right? You can have it in your notes in your phone, and even have the phone numbers one click away. And then sometimes what I have done in the past too is I put them right into my contacts, and I put the people right into my contacts, and I put Lori, party host Morris, right? And so, I put Carrie, recruit lead Ribicki. I had them in my phone like that in the beginning, and then once they join the team, I switch it out so that they don't see it and be like, was that all I was too? Like, but it prompted me. So then that way, because if I just put their name, a couple months goes by and I'm like, oh, I know this name. How do I know this name? Why do I know this name? And sometimes even if I did host party, it doesn't click that they were a party host. I just know I somehow know them through the business. So if I have it already in there, or Jenny warranty Cheatham, right? And so I know that they're probably calling about something like, but it kind of brings it back to you. So when I do answer the phone, I'm like, hey Jenny, how you doing? And then she starts talking. I'm like, oh, by the way, did that seal fit on that bowl or whatever, because it just, I don't need a lot to jog my memory, but I do need things to jog my memory. Otherwise I'm just kind of sitting there looking confused.
That's funny.
So,
Last night when we were doing the whole, we need so many more recruits kind of thing. So I got on my phone and I just started scrolling through names. And I said to Pam, I wish I knew who half these people were.
true. Yeah.
And it wasn't like a Facebook friends list. These are people whose phone numbers I have. I have contact information for them. I got nothing.
Yeah.
You know what I do? You know what I do just with people? I was looking at my phone as we talk. If it's a customer for whatever reason, or even if it's a coach or whatever, or host, I put them in my phone under TW for Tupperware.
Yeah.
Because I won't remember their names. Like I won't remember Carrie or whatever. So if it's a customer, I go to the T's and I start looking through the T's. Like I have TW Barb Trepka nurse. So that to me, I know she's a customer and I know she's a nurse. Like that's some word that strikes my memory, but I probably have, I don't know, 35 people, and some are team members. And then once I get to know them even more, then I'll move them into my regular. But yeah, I have a whole slew of TW people because I know myself and I won't remember their first name. And I would struggle with like Lori Coach.
Me too.
Sometimes the name doesn't come to me, but Tupperware does. I don't know. That's just what I do. This is not my working list. These are just people that I've actually spoken to on the phone or text. Usually I've spoken to these people or texted with them.
So I do cheat, and I have a warranty list on my phone, and I have like their first name and then warranty and their last name. And when that comes up on my phone, I let it go to voicemail. I go find the order so I know what it was I replaced, and if it's in yet, or if they never got it or whatever, so that when I call them back, I can say something intelligent like, I was just I was going through my warranties and I was going to call you tomorrow because that's my phone call day, but I saw that you called and I checked on your order and it'll be there before Christmas.
You know what I started doing, and this has really helped me, you guys, and I'm just going to throw this in there. I have this composition book, so it's just got lines in it. And this is my Bible of anybody that contacts me about Tupperware. So like I started in January and I put like by date, like, anybody that contacts me, or wants to place an order, it's right here. And look at how many people just in January, this is almost daily, but the highlighted is maybe what I still have to do. But like someone just called me while I was here. So I'm going to put in there 12521, so-and-so called me, replacement. So because I was finding like, oh my God, I got stuff everywhere. I've got it on papers and notes, and I don't remember if they email me, but I write in here how they contacted me, email. So this is going to be my yearly Bible, and this has helped me tremendously this month. But it's surprising how many people contact you, like for, hey, my seal's missing or whatever. And I just was having a terrible time keeping track. So now I've got this pink book that is going to serve me well, because then I check them off so I can go back and see, oh, I've taken care of all of that stuff. Otherwise you lose track of who's contacting you about what. I mean,
I
So
actually
true.
I had a woman contact me for a warranty on a large snacking store, and I did all the research, ordered it, it came in. Do you think when it came in, I could find my conversation with her anywhere?
Yeah.
I'm looking at text messages, emails, Facebook Messenger, oh my gosh, it literally took me a month. Finally, I had it a month. And, you know, it doesn't come, it takes a month or 6 weeks to come. This is pre-pandemic. She contacted me and said, hey, did that ever come in? I'm like, oh my gosh, I was just about to contact you.
Oh,
And
see,
now-
it happened to me once, and I actually took a call. I was in my car, and I took the call because the number kind of, like, I thought it was somebody else. And the lady, she started just laying into me, and I said, and finally I said, I am so glad you called. I said, because I couldn't find your number. Like after I wrote it down, I couldn't find it. It wasn't that I couldn't find it. Actually, I couldn't read it. She wrote on a slip and I had her name, but I couldn't read them. There were 2 numbers that I couldn't read and I couldn't make out. And I was trying to, and I tried all these different combos and I couldn't get a hold of her. I said, I'm so sorry. I said, I couldn't read it. And I'm so glad you called because I've got it. And she was like, it never occurred to me that maybe you lost my information. And I was just like, I'm like, yeah, it happens. I'm like, I've got it. I'm on my way out of town, but I'll be back in 2 days. We're going like a fall fest or something. I'm like, I'll be back in 2 days and I'll drop it right off at your house. Call me back, leave me a voicemail with your address. I'll drop it off. And he's like, oh my God, thank you so much. But she just, she was hot. But I just admitted, I was like, hey, I'm glad you called. So it happens. For sure.
And warranties especially, there's a lot of legwork trying to figure out what it is. So
Yeah.
I've got a notebook and then I've got a loose leaf notebook, and I will keep copious notes on what I've figured out. Even if they don't order it, I keep it because people have come back after the fact and I've chucked the sticky note or whatever. And it's, work smarter, not harder.
Right. Yep, absolutely. Well, awesome week, everybody. Lori, did you have something you want to say?
I was going to ask a question. Somebody asked me, where are these recordings for book club? Is there a unit in Champion?
Okay, so there is a unit in Champion, and they weren't getting done. So I did talk to Lois, and she is doing them. So now there's a book club unit, and the only thing that was in it was the first chapter of the Goldfish book.
Oh,
So now these are all going in. So there's a lot that won't ever be in there, but these will be in there.
These will be. Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
Awesome.
So we were so careful about what was recorded and what wasn't, and now it doesn't matter. I'm kidding. I'm joking.
Right.
Well, and see, I didn't realize that you can't just like pop the Zoom in, like you can't put the Zoom recording in. She has to download it or upload it to YouTube and then download, because if you just use the Zoom, it deletes itself in 30 days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to download it and then upload it to YouTube. Yeah.
Good to know.
Well, awesome, everybody. Thank you. Have a great week.
Thanks.
You
Bye.
too.
Bye.
Bye.
Everybody, thanks.